Welcome to the League of Women Voters 2022 Candidates Forum. Today's forum is presented by both the Perrysburg and the Bowling Green Leagues. I'm Jackie Stedman, president of the Perrysburg League. I want to start by thanking the Way Public Library for partnering with us and providing the facility and technology for this all-virtual event. Thank you to the library's technology department for handling the equipment and technical details. We are delighted they are live streaming this forum and recording it for future access on both the Bowling Green and the Perrysburg League's website, as well as the Toledo-Lucas County League site. We ask you not to make audio or video recordings during the forum and to observe the League's rule that the live stream and recording of each race be viewed only in its entirety. The forum has three main parts. Judge for Court of Appeals District 6 race is first on the agenda, followed by a short break, and then we'll move to the State Board of Education District 2 race. Just as a reminder, the League only conducts forums for contested races. The League has published a voter guide in the Perrysburg Messenger Journal and online at vote411.org, where voters can learn even more about the candidates, races, and issues. During the break, we will post voter resources on the screen for your convenience. We solicited questions from the public prior to the forum, and they have been screened by our moderator to pose to the candidates. The candidates have not seen the questions in advance. Our screeners were League members Christy Bezzosi, Kathy Donahue, Deborah Gorman, Lee McLeod, Judy Reitzel, and Carol Russell. The following races will also be on the November 8th ballot for some Wood County and Lucas County voters, but will not be represented during the forum. They are U.S. Congressional District 5, U.S. Congressional District 9, and Ohio House Representative District 75. Candidates for U.S. Congressional District 9, Marcy Kaptur and J.R. Majewski, did not submit paperwork to participate in the forum. U.S. Congressional District 5 candidate Bob Latta was unable to commit to participate and did not submit the required paperwork to participate. U.S. Congressional District 5 candidate Craig Schwartz submitted all required paperwork to participate in the forum. In Ohio House Representative District 75, candidate Haraz Ganbari is unable to participate due to prior commitments, and candidate Jan Materney submitted all required paperwork to participate in the forum. The nonpartisan policy of League of Women Voters precludes us from conducting a forum for any race when only one candidate running for the office will be present. We have no in-person audience today, but I would like to acknowledge Way Library Technology staff members who are present. They are Nicholas Luca, Adam Marrier, Rachel Henk Bentley, and Sarah Gray. League members here today are Roseanne Barker and Shirley Johnson, who will be our timers. Deborah Gorman is our greeter. Lee McLeod is assistant moderator, and our moderator is Lynn Flory. Lynn, I'll turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome and thank you to our virtual audience. I will take a moment to highlight our ground rules for today's forum. First, I will introduce the candidates and read the 100-word biographical statement that each candidate submitted. After that, we will move directly to questions and answers. As Jackie mentioned earlier, questions for the candidates were submitted in advance by citizens in our area and members of the League of Women Voters. The questions were then reviewed and selected by a committee of League members to avoid duplication and to choose appropriate questions for each office. I will designate which candidate will be the first to answer each question. After this candidate is answered, the other candidate will have an opportunity to answer the same question. To be fair to the candidates, we will vary the order in which candidates respond to each question. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer a question. Our timers will notify the candidates as they approach their 90-second time allotment. When the timekeeper indicates the time is up, the candidate will be permitted to finish their sentence. Candidates will then be given 2 minutes at the close of the forum to make closing remarks. Closing remarks will be made in the opposite order as the biographical statements were read. Let's get started with the candidates for Ohio Judge of Court of Appeals District 6. Tom Puffenberger lives in Toledo with his wife of 15 years and their 4 children. Tom is an experienced trial attorney with a diverse legal background. He has worked as a public defender, a prosecutor, a senior attorney with the city of Toledo, and as a staff attorney at the 6th District Court of Appeals. Tom serves on several boards and committees to help our community, including the Old Newsboys Scholarship Committee, the Toledo Police Athletic League Board, the Pat Miller Foundation Board, and the Ottawa Hills Joint Recreation Board. He and his family are members at Hope Lutheran Church. Welcome, Tom. Charlie Sulik is an assistant prosecuting attorney in the Civil Division of Wood County Prosecutor's Office. He previously worked as a judicial attorney at the Ohio Supreme Court for retired Justice Terrence O'Donnell, an attorney rules analyst for the Ohio General Assembly's Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review, JCARR, and in private practice as a litigation attorney. After obtaining a degree in political science from The Ohio State University, Charlie earned his law degree from Capital University Law School. He and his wife, Emma, reside in Sylvania Township with their children. Welcome, Charlie. Now let's get started with the questions. The first question will be to you, Mr. Sulik. What do you consider to be the 3 most important issues that the Ohio judiciary faces today?
Well, first off, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting today's event. It's great to have an opportunity for both of us to get out there and inform voters about this race. Your question was what are the 3 most important issues facing the Ohio judiciary currently? I think one thing that we've experienced the past few years would be making courts more accessible remotely. The things that we can do to help cut costs for clients by having virtual pretrial conferences and things of that nature. And I think that's really important that we continue to find ways to make courts more accessible to attorneys and clients virtually. I think a second issue that the court system needs to be focused on is just making it more affordable for everybody. Litigating cases can be extremely expensive, and I think it's important for all of us to continue to try to find ways to make it so that it's easier to bring your case before the court. And then the third issue that I would say is just simply maybe perhaps criminal justice reform in the sense of reviewing what appropriate sentences should be for different crimes. I think that's always a good thing to take a look at. So that would be a third issue that I think the court should take a look at it, but also the General Assembly, just to review those 3 things periodically.
Thank you. Mr. Puffenberger, same question to you. What do you consider to be the 3 most important issues that the Ohio judiciary faces today?
Thank you. And I would echo Mr. Sulik's thanks to the Way Library and to League of Women Voters for having us today. The 3 most important issues facing the judiciary, in my opinion, the first would be, it seems recently there's been a distrust in the court system. So the courts in Ohio and the courts everywhere need to figure out how to gain that trust back from the individuals of the state. The courts need to be more transparent. They need to be, the public needs to have more access to the courts so that the court can gain that trust back that the courts always had since the courts began. Another issue would be expedience, especially through COVID. It seems like cases got backed up. People have to wait longer than they should have to wait for justice. Cases take far too long. So the judges in the courts of Ohio and everywhere need to make sure that they're, especially in the district courts, issuing opinions that are both accurate, both follow the law, and are expedient and in a timely manner. And then I would agree with Mr. Sulik about the cost. I mean, it shouldn't cost money to achieve justice. It shouldn't be too expensive to go to court. So something that can be done to help lower the costs of litigation is something that the courts definitely need to look into.
Thank you. Question number 2 goes to you, Mr. Puffenberger, first. How have your legal experiences prepared you for the important work of the 6th District Court of Appeals?
So I believe that my legal experience qualifies me extremely well for this type of position. My background as an attorney, I started in private practice for a couple years. I didn't really enjoy doing that. I wanted to go into public service, so I took a job with the public defender's office. So since I've graduated law school, I've worked in private practice. I worked with the public defender's office. I've worked for the county prosecutor's office. I've worked for the city of Toledo as a senior attorney. I do civil work for the city as well as criminal prosecution in the morning. And I also worked at the Court of Appeals as a staff attorney. So I've reviewed all these issues. I have very familiar with the court, and I am very familiar with how things work there. I think that diversity of experience is important in a job like this, because the Court of Appeals can get cases of any type. They can get juvenile cases, they can get cases from municipal court, governmental issues, criminal cases, civil cases. And I've worked in all those fields. I've practiced in all those areas. I'm very familiar with those arguments because I've likely made them before. And I am very well qualified. And I believe that my prior experience in basically all areas of the law would uniquely qualify me for a position like this.
Thank you. Mr. Sulik, how have your legal experiences prepared you for the important work of the 6th District Court of Appeals?
Yes, thank you. I think the most relevant experience that I have in my background would be having worked as a judicial attorney at the Ohio Supreme Court. That's really where I gained an in-depth knowledge of the appellate process, learned how to analyze complex and novel legal issues. So I think that's the most relevant experience, but I think all of it is extremely helpful for what the job of an appellate judge entails. And the rest of my experience includes working as a litigation attorney. In private practice, I've worked as an assistant prosecuting attorney in Wood County in the civil division there. And then I've also worked for the Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review, otherwise known as JCAR, which is responsible for reviewing and analyzing the rules of over 100 state agencies. So that gave me a great broad knowledge in many areas of the law. I think in each job that I've had, I've really had the opportunity to work not in just one area of the law, but in multiple. So I think all of that together has prepared me for this job.
Thank you. Third question to you, Mr. Sulik, first. What is the prime reason for your decision to run for the Court of Appeals?
So again, not to go back, I guess, to the Ohio Supreme Court, that's really when I first realized that someday that I wanted to be a judge. Working there, every case mattered. Not that, I mean, they always matter at every level, but there you know that each case has a statewide impact. So that really was a deciding factor in me realizing that one day I wanted to be a judge. For this race in particular, this is actually the second time that I'm running for this job. I first ran in 2020, and I felt good about the campaign that I ran. We came up short, but I felt that there was a little unleft business that I wanted to achieve, and I think courts are important. It's important to get involved in our community, and this is one way that I think I can have a positive impact and hopefully be someone that others in the community can look up to, somebody that can get involved in the community and be active. So that's really why I decided to run.
Thank you. And Mr. Puffenberger, what is the prime reason for your decision to run for the Court of Appeals?
Thank you. So for the decision to run to the Court of Appeals, I made that decision when I was working at the Court of Appeals. So I worked there as a staff attorney for a few years, and I really loved the work I was doing. I really enjoyed the research and writing. I really enjoyed drafting the opinions. The longer I worked there, the more that I realized that that's where I wanted to end my career. So I really would like to end my career here, and I am only 41 years old, so I would like to serve with the Court of Appeals for several terms and end my career there. I initially wanted to become a judge because I love public service. I loved being a prosecutor. I loved being a public defender. I really enjoyed helping the community. And I think with the skill set that I have, with the knowledge that I've gained working in the different jobs that I've worked, I believe that it has prepared me to really do a good job at the Court of Appeals. And I believe I could greatly help the community by working at the Court of Appeals as a judge.
Thank you. Question number 4, Mr. Puffenberger, do you believe that everyone should have equal protection under the law?
That's kind of an easy question. Yes. In a one word. Yes, I do believe that everyone should have equal protection under the law. And I believe that means that, equal protection under the law means equal protection for everyone. And you see some decisions come out that seem political, and you see groups of people seem to be left out. And I believe that the role of the judiciary is to guarantee equal protection under the law, not just for certain groups, but for everyone. So I guess the short answer is yes. I believe that everyone deserves equal protection under the law.
Thank you. And Mr. Sulik, do you believe that everyone should have equal protection under the law?
Yes, it goes as no surprise that I am also a yes on that question, that everyone deserves equal protection under the law. I think it's important that we have judges who really have no other agenda in taking the bench other than following the law, applying it equally to every person, every individual that comes before them, protecting the rights of all individuals equally. I don't think that we should have someone that's running for judge that doesn't believe that. Along with my colleague here, yes, my answer to the question is yes.
Thank you. Question number 5, Mr. Sulik, what are the most important qualities a judge should possess?
Thanks. I think there are 3 main qualities that every judge should possess, and I think these are certainly 3 that I would hope to possess. And the first would be someone that's committed to following the law, someone that's going to be a servant of the law, that's willing to set aside their personal and political beliefs, analyze the arguments of the parties, the facts of the case, and allow the law to guide the outcome of each case. The second quality, I think, builds off that. I guess I would call that scholarship, in a sense of a judge should have a decision-making process in place that allows them to reach an objective decision that's an unbiased decision, that judges should rely on well-accepted rules of interpretation when deciding cases. So that would be the second quality that I would think a judge should possess. And then the third would be temperament. We want judges that when people come before a judge, they should know that that judge doesn't have an agenda, that they are going to, even if they don't win, that they're going to understand that they had a fair shot. They're happy. They know the judge listened to them. And the judge isn't tipping their hand one way or the other, being out there in the community and saying things that they shouldn't, or giving any appearance of bias.
Thank you. And Mr. Puffenberger, what are the most important qualities a judge should possess?
Well, I would absolutely agree with all of the qualities Mr. Sulik just named. I would also say that a judge should be experienced and should have experience in the decisions that he's making. Someone should have practiced these cases. Someone should have knowledge of the arguments that are being made so that they can understand the arguments. I believe that a judge should have good judicial temperament, and part of that is having open-mindedness. So a judge should be able to, and this is kind of goes without saying, should be able to go into a case with an open mind and be able to interpret both of the arguments, because there's people on both sides that believe their arguments are valid, and it's the job of the judge to interpret those arguments and with an open mind and make sure that the law is being applied properly and the decisions are coming out correctly. And then I would just say to go along with is just knowledge. So someone with experience with the law knowledge of the law, someone who has researched the law, and both of us have done that at different parts of our career. But just someone who knows what they're doing and knows what the law says and is able to properly analyze it.
Thank you. And our final question of the day, Mr. Puffenberger, why should voters support you?
Voters should support me because of the questions that we just answered. Because I have the experience to do this. I have, like I said, I've served as a prosecutor, as a public defender. I have the knowledge base of both of those sides of the argument. I've made those arguments. I have extensive trial experience. I'm an experienced litigation attorney, so I've completed numerous trials, including jury trials, civil and criminal trials. I have worked with the city of Toledo. We've done administrative hearings. We've done. I'm just very familiar with the court system, and I would vow to everyone, as anyone running for judge should, that I would, decide cases impartially and just according to the law. I believe that I am dedicated to my community. In my introduction, I was talked about the things that I do in my community. I'm a member of several boards. I love to help the community through the Pat Miller Board and the Toledo PAL Board and the Old Newsboys Scholarship Committee, and then youth sports in my home school at Ottawa Hills with the Joint Recreation Committee. So I'm dedicated to the community, and I am dedicated to serving the law as stated in the law.
Thank you. Mr. Sulik, why should voters support you?
Yeah, I agree. My experience is one of the reasons, which we've already kind of highlighted on, but it's working as a judicial attorney at the Ohio Supreme Court. It's having worked in private practice as a civil litigator, and then now at the Wood County Prosecutor's Office. But education or experience is important for any judicial race. I think that's something every voter should look at, but voters should also be looking at judicial philosophy. And I think I have the right judicial philosophy, being focused on interpreting laws as they're written, not as I wish or they would have been written, but focusing on what the law actually is and making a decision based on that. And then I think it's the other things that I bring. It's about being hardworking. It's showing up every day at the court, doing the research and putting the time in necessary to ensure that the correct decision is reached in each case. Someone that's going to recognize that every single case does matter that comes before the court. And ultimately it's a collection of those things, I think, that ultimately leads me to be the best candidate. Thanks.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Those are all the questions we have for you today. Now we will give you each 2 minutes to have your closing remarks. And Mr. Sulik, you are first.
So I guess I'll probably repeat a little bit of what I just said. But again, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Again, we don't get a lot of opportunities or a lot of the spotlight, I guess, when we're on the ballot for judicial races in particular. But so I think it's important to have events like this where we can get out and let voters know about us, give a sense of who we are, who we would be as judges. So thank you very much for that. Again, I encourage everybody to look at our experience, look at what our philosophy is, look at how we would approach and decide cases. And again, I think if you want a judge that's going to be committed to upholding the rule of law, that's going to protect the rights of all individuals, and who's going to be committed to working hard every single day to make our community safer, make our community better, then I ask for your vote this November. Again, I'm Charlie Sulik, and appreciate everything today. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Puffenberger?
Thank you. And I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters. This is great that we do have the opportunity to do this and actually sit down and get some, I guess I would say FaceTime, but Zoom time with the voters and let them know, who we are and what we stand for. I usually when I have these conversations, I talk about my experience, but I harped on that pretty well during the questions. So I just want to talk about the importance of voting, and I thank the League of Women Voters for making sure that the vote gets out and making sure that the voter turnout is up. I love our system of democracy, but it only works when everyone is voting. So stuff like this is crucially important to make people educated, make sure they're aware of who the candidates are and what they've done and what they stand for. So I really appreciate the opportunity. If you want to look at more information on me, my website is it's just Puffenberg. It's votepuff.com. My Facebook page is just Puffenberger for Judge. I would encourage everyone out there to look at the League of Women Voters sites for their information. Look at my website. I believe if people are voting based on what they're hearing and making educated choices, I believe that I am the best candidate for this race, and I would appreciate your vote on November 8th. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes the Judge of Court of Appeals program part of our program. Thank you, candidates, for participating today. Jackie, I will turn it back to you for further comments.
Thank you, Lynn. And sincere thanks to Mr. Zulik and Mr. Puffenberger for coming today. I really appreciate that. On behalf of all the leagues here, we appreciate that. Just a reminder that the recording of the forum will be available via a link on each of our area's league websites, Bowling Green, Perrysburg, and Toledo, Lucas County. So right now we're going to take a short break and then resume with the State Board of Education candidates. If you are live streaming the event at home, do not turn off your device. Leave it running to view the Board of Education portion of the forum. And thank you. Good afternoon. We are going to extend our intermission for about another 10 minutes. We did have a delay with one of our candidates' ability to get here. So if you'll just, if you're live streaming, please continue to live stream and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to the Bowling Green and Perrysburg League of Women Voters 2022 Candidates Forum. I'm Jackie Stedman, president of the Perrysburg League. We are ready to resume our forum today with the candidates for State Board of Education. I'm going to repeat a few items from my earlier remarks, starting with a thank you to the Way Public Library for partnering with us and providing the facility and technology for this all virtual event. Thank you to the library's technology department for handling the equipment and all technical details, live streaming the forum and recording it for future access on each of the Bowling Green, Perrysburg, and Toledo Lucas County League of Women Voters websites. We ask you not to make audio or video recordings during the forum and to observe the League's rule that the live stream and recording of each race be viewed only in its entirety. We solicited questions from the public prior to the forum, and they have been screened for our moderator to pose to the candidates. The candidates have not seen the questions in advance. Our screeners were League members Christy Bezzosi, Kathy Donahue, Deborah Gorman, Lee McLeod, Judy Reitzel, and Carol Russell. We have no in-person audience today, but I would like to acknowledge Way Library technology staff members who are present. There are Nicholas Luca, Adam Marrier, Rachel Henk Bentley, and Sarah Gray. League members here today are Roseanne Barker and Shirley Johnson, who will be our timers. Deborah Gorman is our greeter. Lee McLeod is assistant moderator, and our moderator is Lynn Fleury. Lynn, I'll turn the program over to you.
Thanks, Jackie. Welcome and thank you to our virtual audience. I will take a moment to highlight our ground rules for today's forum. First, I will introduce the candidates and read the 100-word biographical statement that each candidate submitted. After that, we will move directly to questions and answers. As Jackie mentioned earlier, questions for the candidates were submitted in advance by citizens in our area and members of the League of Women Voters. The questions were then reviewed and selected by a committee of League members to avoid duplication and to choose appropriate questions for each office. I will designate which candidate will be the first to answer each question. After this candidate has answered, the other candidate will have an opportunity to answer the question. To be fair to the candidates, we will vary the order in which the candidates respond to each question. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer a question. Our timers will notify the candidates as they approach their 90-second time allotment. When the timekeeper indicates that time is up, the candidate will be permitted to finish their sentence. Candidates will be given 2 minutes at the close of the forum to make closing remarks. Closing remarks will be made in the opposite order as the biographical statements were read. The segment of our forum is for State Board of Education District 2. And let's begin. Welcome, ladies. Senator Teresa Fetter has served in the legislature for 22 years. She is a veteran and former teacher. She brings with her an accomplished body of work focused on education and human trafficking, where she is considered the state's preeminent legislative voice to combat it. She is the daughter of Clayton and Loretta Taylor and the second eldest of their 7 children. She attributes her work ethic and values to their love and sacrifices. They role modeled treating all people with dignity and respect by living it every day. A grandmother, Senator Fetter is purposeful in considering all of Ohio families. Welcome, Teresa. Sarah McGurby, I am a Lorain County resident. I am a proud aunt of a 3-year-old niece, a 4-month-old nephew. I have 2 associate's degrees from Lorain Community College, a Bachelor of Science degree from Cleveland State University, and a Master of Arts from Boston College. I have experience teaching at the elementary, high school, and middle school levels. I have been involved in various volunteer opportunities, junior achievement, serving the homeless, and assisting various nonprofit organizations. As a teacher, I enjoy the rapport I have built with students and families, helping students achieve their potential. Welcome to you both, ladies. We will start with the questions. The first question will be to you, Ms. Fetter. What are the 3 greatest challenges facing Ohio's schools? What solutions will you promote?
Number 1 is the issue that drove me out of the classroom 22 years ago, and that is to have a constitutional school funding formula. The Supreme Court has deemed it unconstitutional 4 times. And the last time it punted to the legislature to truly fix it. Well, that hasn't happened. This is the 25th year that we have had the challenge of having a constitutional funding formula so that the property owners and even farmers aren't overburdened in supporting their local school districts. In the Constitution, it said it should be the state legislature, and that hasn't been done in the last 25 years. And so the failure of that one item has really put us in a quandary of removing a lot of local control for school boards, which is wrong, and also the focus of modernizing our public schools. So we had a funding formula that was presented in the last budget, which was rejected. It only funded 2 years, and so I would continue to fight to have fully funded Constitution, reducing state testing, all of our state tests we don't have to have, reforming Ohio's report card to reflect the quality of your local entity, and also supporting teachers so they get the professional development that they deserve to modernize our public education system.
Thank you. Ms. McGurvey, same question to you. What are the 3 greatest challenges facing Ohio's schools? What solutions will you promote?
Yes, I think it's school choice. It is parent voice, education, and state testing. I think that children should be funded, and whatever their needs are should also be funded wherever their parents choose to send their children to school at. Whatever choice they make is for their child. They are the primary caretakers of their child, and that should be respected. I think that state testing is an issue, and we need to go back and reform that, look at what the percentage of proficiency level is, along with what the questions are that children are being asked, and looking at as well parent voice, making sure that parents are involved in the education process and what is happening in the schools. And we need to make sure that their voices are heard and that they are involved in what happens with their child's education and mental health and otherwise.
Thank you. Ms. McGurvey, second question to you first. Please define the State Board of Education's role in school funding.
The state board assists the legislature in determining how much is spent on different resources that the schools receive and helps with the state legislature in making those decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Fetter, same question. Please define the State Board of Education's role in school funding.
First of all, it's a policy for the laws that are made in the legislature. And we assist in the state superintendent in really implementing those policies and laws. But what's really critically important is that we listen to the local school boards and their needs, depending on how much the cost of that education locally is. And so we need to respond appropriately. Number one, that our funding is constitutional, which it is not. 25 years of not funding our schools. So therefore, we don't have a modern education system. So it's very important that we gather and listen to all the local school boards and be that voice at the state school board to the legislature to help push for constitutional school funding.
Thank you. Ms. Fetter, third question to you. Why are you running for the State Board of Education? And if elected, what will be your priorities?
Well, I'm running because I am a teacher and I'm a veteran of the Air Force and the Air National Guard, veteran classroom teacher 18 years, and a veteran legislator for 22, which came to the legislature to help fix a constitutional school funding formula so that all of our children, 100% of our children, get the opportunity that they need for their future. And 100% of our children is our future. It's important that you have someone that has the experience, not only as a classroom teacher, mom, grandmother, but as a legislator who has seen what has happened to public education in Ohio the last 30 years. And I think it's important that we continue to make sure that our schools are transparent, held accountable, and held accountable for the results. And by the way, people do have a voice when they elect their local school boards. The other school systems that have been put in place by the legislature are not fully accountable and they're not transparent and there are no checks and balances. So the parents' voices are really diminished in those other two systems.
Thank you. And Ms. McGurvey, same question. Why are you running for the State Board of Education? And if elected, what will be your priorities?
Thank you. Yes, I'm running because I am currently in a classroom and I have a fresh take on what is happening with children in the classroom these days. COVID did a number on children and their education, and really reviewing what the state standards are and reviewing what the policies are as well. Being a voice for the children currently in classrooms, I know from experience that the parents' voices are heard at the different levels locally. Various schools have the local control that they have at their schools, parents' voice concerns, and ensuring that, again, that the funding formula can work, that money from the state will be used with the child correctly, that we ensure that children at whatever school they go to receive the funding they need to reach their highest achievement possible at the school of their parents' choice, and also to ensure transparency as well. That is very important. When a school receives state money, it should be transparent what they're spending it on and how it's being used, and ensuring that it's being spent correctly and for the good of the child.
Thank you. Question for Ms. McGurvey. Please explain your views on the school voucher system.
I am for school choice. Children should receive money for whatever school is best for them. Like I just said, the money should be used for the child's best interest in education, for their good in education, not just given to them for whatever reason is, but make sure that it's being accounted for, that whatever service they receive, it is transparent, and it should follow the child. If the parent chooses a school because of any reason that they deem is suitable for their child, they know the child best, then why not? They are the primary caretaker of the child, primary teacher. They know what's best for their child. And that's after they discuss with the principal, administration at their child's current school. And if they cannot meet that need, then take them somewhere else that would meet the need. They have that freedom, and they should be able to have that freedom. Why not? Why not allow Ohioans to have the freedom to do what's best for their child and make sure that's transparent, obviously, and ensure that's being used correctly and for good reasons that will best help the child. Thank you.
Ms. Fetter, same question. Please explain your views on the school voucher system.
I support constitutional public education system for the common good, as our Constitution dictates. And that hasn't changed. So why are we supporting a voucher system with our public dollars when it's woefully untransparent, unaccountable? And Cincinnati Enquirer did a report on how poorly our children are being educated in a voucher school with the same address that they came out of. So we know that the quality education is not insured just because it is a private school. And I believe that our first obligation is to the Constitution that we swore an oath to. And our public tax dollars need full accountability, transparency, and checks and balances. And let's think about the charter school system. It is not a public school system that has full transparency like our traditional public schools. They are managed by nonprofit for-profits, and your tax dollars go into a black hole, never to be seen again on top of the table the way a traditional public school is set up. So right there, the good governance principles for important public institutions don't exist in the other two pseudo public school systems.
Thank you. Question number 5 to you, Ms. Fetter. Specifically, how do you plan to promote and support public education?
Thank you much for that question. I'm very excited to be running for the State Board of Education because I will show up. The current incumbent has not shown up in Perrysburg after being asked by many of the groups in this area. I will show up. I will not only show up, I will listen and gather information from the local school boards, the teachers, the parents, the community, and help support trying to get that constitutional funding formula fully funded in the next budget. That's critically important. And also continue working on a report card and not giving so many of the tests, because the tests we take in Ohio are not all mandated. So we need to give more authority to the local school boards to use that money to educate their children accordingly.
Thank you. Ms. McGurvey, same question. Specifically, how do you plan to promote and support public education?
Thank you. Yes. I think using the state money for really valuable life skills will help with public schools as well. Something that I've been talking with people about that I have not seen in schools in a while, my school, Selpton, I have it, back to basic life skills along with what's already there. You know, home economics is a great subject that people really dearly missed. And it's a great way of teaching math and science skills. And why not use some of the money that's spent on state testing, which has an astronomical amount of the budget attached to it, on these skills and bringing back other types of vocational opportunities to schools as well that will help children figure out where their skills lie best and what can help them achieve their greatest potential in the future, and just giving people the opportunity to explore various fields that right now isn't always there. And I want to help with that. Also ensuring that the tests we do give, because we need some kind of a measure for the children are at, that the questions make sense, that they are appropriate, and that the proficiency score cut score is an actually passing score, not just some arbitrary number to make schools look better, but that the children receive an actual passing score if they truly know how to read and do math, so that if they do need remediation, they can receive that remediation. And so making sure the money is spent best that it can be to help children achieve in the public schools.
Thank you. Ladies, last question to Ms. McGurvey, you first. What do you view as the primary work of the State Board of Education?
The primary role is to find a superintendent that will oversee the public schools and that will ensure the policy is put into practice. And I hope to ensure we have an interim one right now, finding a permanent one that will look out for the good of Ohio's children, that will take into account the message from local school boards. I plan to be involved in local school boards, go to their meetings, talk to parents, teachers, students, all the stakeholders involved, and bring that message to the meetings and ensure that we find someone who will fit the needs of our students and our teachers in the local areas, and make sure that they hold schools accountable, whatever type of school is, but public schools particularly, to make sure that the children are receiving their best education possible.
Thank you. And Ms. Fetter, what do you view as the primary work of the State Board of Education?
It's to support the local school boards, also work with the legislature hand in hand, and making sure that we are in sync. It's also very important that we do select a state superintendent that will focus on the constitutional obligation of fully funding public schools and helping those local school boards attract teachers, keep teachers, train teachers, give them the tools so they can teach, give the students tools so they can learn, and certainly parents knowing that we're not going to have these culture wars in the classrooms. I think that's really significantly important, and that we need to focus on modernizing our public schools to reflect the work world. We have Intel coming, which is very exciting. I would hate to see Intel having to import workers because they can't depend on Ohio helping our children be prepared for a job that could possibly be at Intel. So we need this modernization, stop the extreme Washington, DC tactics, fear mongering, scaring parents, focusing on issues that are not important to the classroom and the children in our future. So we need to be about the seriousness of these policies, helping the local school boards, who are elected, by the way, fully accountable and have to hold every penny on the table to be overseen. And the other two systems falls into a black hole. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes our question and answer part of the program. You now will each have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Ms. McGurvey, you are first.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being a representative of the students, the teachers, the parents, the local school districts to the state board. I hope to bring in a fresh view, fresh perspective, recent classroom experience, recent knowledge of what children are going through in the classroom, of what the material is, how they are doing academically, and ensuring that their voices are heard at the state level, at the state board level, because they are who we are working for. They are who matters. They are the future of Ohio. And we need to work in partnership with the local school districts, the parents, and the students to ensure that Ohio is top notch in the nation for academics. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Fetter, 2 minutes.
In the Way Public Library, and thank you for helping me turn on my mic every time. You know, I'm so focused on helping our children match their capacity of what they dream about as young people going through school. And oftentimes we're so busy and focused on these state tests that hold people accountable, only to be punished if they don't follow the report card, which I helped initiate the change because we had arbitrary cutoff scores that the state school board approved, and they didn't know why they approved them. We found out that it was rigged and that schools would never be able to reach 100%. That is not a report card that taxpayers, I think, would support. They want to support a report card that reflects the meaningfulness of their local school board and what they're presenting to their community. I think it's extremely important that we focus on that, not the Washington, D.C. extremism that's coming at us every other day. So I'm going to focus on a constitutional school funding formula, reducing the tests, supporting teachers with professional development, tools for our children to learn, and for parents to be ensured that we're not going to have these culture wars in their schools. And we need to be about the business of helping our children reach the future that they dream of and that they deserve. And I'm so grateful for not only the League of Women Voters, but for people getting out to vote. If you can't vote early, vote on Election Day, November 8th. It's part of our democracy, engaging, you know, the history and the civics of who we are today. And also maybe taking your children with you to see and engage them in that process. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That concludes our program. Thank you, candidates, for participating today. It was a pleasure. Jackie will have our closing remarks.
Thank you, Lynn. And sincere thanks to Teresa Fetter and Sarah McGurvey for being here today. We really appreciate you being part of our forum. That concludes the 2022 Candidates Forum. A link to the recording of the forum will be available on all 3 League of Women Voters websites, Bowling Green, Perrysburg, and Toledo-Lucas County in the next few days. Please be sure to go to vote411.org for more Q&A with the candidates. And thank you very much for watching.